Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, February 1st, 2018. First thing we're going to get started with is calling roll. We will start with Vice Chairman Jeff Nelson.
Present.
Secretary Jay Outluski.
Present.
Member Brian Patterson.
Present.
Member Linda Grice.
Present.
Member Clay Alsop.
Present.
Member Joanne DeCondi.
Present.
And alternate member John Albright.
Present.
Okay, we are all here. I'm going to get started tonight by reading an opening statement. This commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria. The commission hears zoning cases, holds public hearings, or may conduct a study session on the topic. Decisions made by the commission are forwarded as written recommendations to the City Council, who take the final action. All hearings are conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules for Procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Rules of Procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order at which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the commission adheres to the following steps. Chair will call the case. City staff will provide a brief report and recommendation. The applicant is then invited to give a presentation. Then any member of the public may provide testimony. The testimony is limited to 3 minutes. So when we call your name, please come up to the podium and provide your name and address for the record. After all the testimony has been taken, we will invite the applicant back up to provide rebuttal or final statements. Finally, we'll have the commission decision and discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the assistant on my left down at the end of the dais. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Any member of the public may appeal to the City Council the decision of the commission regarding conditional use permits. The appeal must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 15 days of the date, 15 calendar days of the date of the commission's decision. All commission recommendations on public hearing items, including general plan amendments, rezones, zoning code amendments, and special plans, move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act upon the recommendation of the Commission. The City Council may concur with the decision, modify it, overturn it, or remand it back to the Commission for further consideration. We welcome citizens' comments and fellow it'll be one of those nights. And as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. So on the agenda tonight, we have the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature or have been previously reviewed by the Commission and will be enacted by one motion. Tonight's consent agenda, we have only one item. Item 1C is the minutes. Discussion of possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on January 18th of 2018. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
Chairman, I move that we approve consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the minutes. Is there anything further under discussion? All in favor, please, please vote. Yeah, that was my other meeting. Okay, the ayes have it. Yeah, totally off script here. Okay, we're going to move on to the regular agenda now. We do have unfinished business to tend to, and that is Case 2R, the Z16-0013 Cowtown rezoning. Request to rezone approximately 78 acres from special use to floodplain. And floodplain to Cowtown planned area development to clarify the allowed uses, development standards, and operational criteria for Cowtown Range. I believe staff has something to say to this.
Indeed, Chairman and members of the Commission, thank you. Lori Deaver. So we do have an update this evening, and as you can see on the screen, and I want to direct you to the memo that we provided up on the staff, which would be an email that we have received from the Deputy Land Commissioner from the Arizona State Land Department. Based on that email, he has identified that the parties are continuing to negotiate in good faith. However, they have not reached an agreement yet, and there is a material item that they wish to continue to work towards an agreement on, and that may take some time in order to do that. So accordingly, they have not rescinded their letter of opposition. And while the agreement with state land and the applicant is outside the purview of the rezoning application, staff is making the recommendation. We believe it's in everybody's interest in order to not move the case forward until that letter of opposition has been rescinded from the State Land Department. So we are consequently changing our recommendation this evening. We are going to ask for a continuance of the case to the March 1st, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. With that, the applicant is here and I believe wishes to make a statement as well. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, just for clarification, the letter said that they had anticipated it would take an additional 5 to 6 weeks to resolve. We're looking at 4 weeks out here. Is that going to be enough time?
Staff believes at the 4-week mark, we will either provide an update to commission at that point in time, or we will likely have an agreement in place. And so I believe the applicant can speak better to the material items and what they feel is an appropriate time frame.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? We do still have to open a public hearing on this, even though we plan to continue it, or can we just, no? Don't have to open a public hearing? Okay. Okay, so the applicant would like to make a statement. Would you like to approach the podium? And please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Brian Greathouse, 702 East Osborne Road. Yes, we are supportive of a continuance tonight. We have been and we continue to work with the State Land Department. In terms of timing, we're ready next week to hammer this out. The state is a large organization and not as nimble as we are, so it's been a challenge getting it done. That's the only hindrance. All the terms and everything have been progressing towards what we've always been talking about the last couple of months.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any questions for the applicant from the commission? See the speaker request is clear, so everything's good. So
thank you.
So being that, do we have a motion to continue case number Z160013 to March 1st?
Yeah, I'll move that we continue this to March 1st. Item 2R Z16-0013.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this case to March 1st. Would you please vote? Okay, and it passes unanimously. Okay, we're on to new business. First item up on new business today is case Z. It really is going to be one of those days. I can't read either. Case Z06-15A.1, Marriott Town Place Suites and Fairfield Inn and Suites. A request to amend the existing Paradiso planned area development zoning district to enable the development of the property for a hotel use and associated uses. The site is a vacant parcel of approximately 3.3 acres located at the southwest corner of 75th Avenue and Paradise Lane. Staff, you got a report?
Cody. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Cody Gleason, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. As referenced, the case before you tonight is Z06-15A.1 for Marriott Town Place Suites and Fairfield Inn and Suites. The applicant, Amina Peoria LLC, is looking to amend the existing planned area development to provide for a hotel use within that PAD and the associated development standards that would accommodate that use at the subject location. As you can see here, the site is located at the southwest corner of 75th Avenue and Paradise Lane. To the north, you have existing commercial development. To the south, you have the AC/DC Canal. West is Skunk Creek Canal and an apartment complex. And to the east, you have vacant land. Here's a representation of the surrounding zoning adjacent to this particular site. As you can see, the C2 and PAD accommodates the shopping centers to the north. The PAD allows for the apartment complex to the west. And though it may sound odd, the channel to the west and south are actually zoned to the south is RM1 and agriculture, and then to the west is PI1, which is planned light industrial. To the east is a vacant parcel, which is currently zoned PI1. The existing PAD allows for a wide array of uses that you would find in a typical commercial shopping center. However, the use listings within the existing PAD are somewhat dated and reflective of the time that the PAD was adopted. So the applicant is proposing to modify those standards to allow for the desired use of a hotel. The existing PAD calls for uses such as stamp shop, coin store, hobby store, photo printing shop, things that aren't really relevant in today's market and probably aren't the highest and best use at the proposed location. A little bit of background on this particular site. As I referenced, it is currently zoned PAD. The existing Paradiso PAD was adopted in April of 2007. Subsequent to that PAD adoption, the city went through a study process of the larger, what is now known as P83 Entertainment District area, and tried to identify what is the character of this area and what are the appropriate uses and form that that development in the surrounding area should take. That plan was adopted by council in July of 2010. That plan, as I referenced, really identified the vision for the P83 area and what's referenced as the Sports Complex Urban Design Plan. So it identified the vision and form for the developments in the area with particular character areas. This site in particular is referenced in that plan as the East End. And calls for an assortment of mixed-use options. One of the key components of that Sports Complex Urban Design Plan was the urban form that the developments should take in the area, really drawing the buildings to the street, pedestrian-oriented amenities, and really providing activity space and pedestrian scale for the uses within the entertainment district. The proposed PAD amendment tries to provide for and accommodate those intentions not only within the general plan designation for this site of sports complex mixed use, but also the more specific criteria identified within the sports complex urban design plan. So it does provide for some of those more urban elements that you find within locations that are often referred to as things like entertainment districts. So it provides for the larger height allowance. It provides for reduced setbacks in order to draw those buildings and that form to the street where there's more of a pedestrian interaction as you proceed along adjacent to the developments. This development in particular calls for a 4-story hotel use. with 198 rooms. Those 198 rooms would be spread across the two different formats of this hotel, one being the Town Place Suites and the other being the Fairfield Inn and Suites. The two uses would share a joined lobby, the purpose of which would be providing minimal impacts on the area, such as the need for additional staff, parking, amenities on site, so that those two formats can share those uses and really accommodate a more functional site as a whole. This site in particular, one of the amenities that would be provided with the hotel use would be a rooftop pool over the central lobby that you see there at the center of the two wings. Some of the other criteria that are identified within the PAD, again, draw the building towards the street, provide for pedestrian connections that serve a regional trail system. In this area, as referenced, there's the Skunk Creek Canal, and within that canal, there is a larger regional trail system that this project in particular would provide for an important leg of. Along Paradise there, this project would accommodate a 10-foot sidewalk, which would function as a multi-use path for a leg of that Skunk Creek Trail. Excuse me. Additionally, some of the design standards that are provided for within the PAD Standard and Guidelines report work to tie this development into the surrounding area, providing things like theming for the P83 Entertainment District. There'll be a sign at the approximate corner of 75th Avenue and Paradise, similar to those that you may have seen in the P83 district. There will also be theme walls that will incorporate design elements not only from the proposed building elevations, but also draw in elements from the P83 district. Some of the changes in particular to the development standards that are occurring within this PAD amendment is the change in height, front setback, parking spaces, and the landscape width. So the change in height is more of a technical change rather than a functional change. The existing PAD allows for a 60-foot height maximum, but then it carves out an exception for mechanical equipment to go beyond that 60 feet in height. For functional and readability purposes, the applicant's proposing to simply change that to 65 feet. So there's a clear delineation of where the height maximum is and what's being accounted for within that height maximum. The front setback, as referenced in an effort to draw the building towards the street and have that pedestrian interaction, is reducing from 40 feet to 10 feet. The rear setback remains the same at 30 feet. The parking standards, the applicant did a parking study in association with this proposal to reduce the amount of required parking. In that parking study, they evaluated items such as parking requirements for other local jurisdictions and also jurisdictions out of state. They took a look at hotels that have similar formats and found that the one space per room, as well as the city of Peoria currently has additional requirements for things like additional guest spaces that aren't necessarily accounted for in that. In the applicant's evaluation that they provided, it made a clear distinction that 0.8 spaces per room accommodated all of the desired uses that would occur, whether it's staffing for the hotel or the guests or guests that are holding meetings in the small meeting rooms that exist on site. In addition to those 0.8 spaces, the applicant is accommodating some of the accessory uses that they're looking to allow on site. So the restaurant bar use that's proposed as an accessory use would accommodate additional parking, and that's being provided for within the standard and guidelines report. Again, in order to facilitate a more urban form, the landscape frontage width along Paradise Lane has been reduced from the typical 15 feet that you would see along a collector or arterial to 7 feet. That 7 feet allows for appropriate planting so that you have kind of a softening of typical concrete and or block materials with some vegetation, but it also provides enough space for that vegetation to survive. Here you see some conceptual elevations of what's proposed for the site. As you can see here, you have kind of the two wings of the site, one functioning as one format, the Town Place Inn and Suites, and the other functioning as the Fairfield Inn and Suites. That lower central portion would be the lobby area, which contains the rooftop pool. You can see kind of a rendering there of some of the shade amenities that would be on top along with that outdoor use. As a result, in our evaluation, staff finds that the changes that are proposed by the applicant reflect the goals and objectives of the City of Peoria General Plan, and more specifically, the Sports Complex Urban Design Plan. The planned area development amendment is consistent with the land use that exists on the site, and again, with the Sports Complex Urban Design Plan. And it's really a better reflection of the development needs for the site while taking into account the surroundings of the existing environment. As a result, staff recommends approval of case Z06-15A.1 to the City Council, subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report and the memo that was provided to you prior to the meeting. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Cody. Looks like we have a couple of questions for staff. Let's start with Commissioner Condi.
I have a couple questions. One of them is, can you bring up that schematic where it had the plan, this one? I see a lobby. I don't see any restaurant here. Is that going to be? Is there going to be a restaurant in this?
Chairman, Commissioner Condi, yes, the proposed restaurant, if the applicant moves forward with that accessory use, would be completely located within the lobby.
Okay.
So it would just essentially be carving out a space within the lobby.
Are there going to be any meeting rooms?
There will be, I believe, 3 small meeting rooms, but they'll be exclusively for guests of the hotel, not for, say, conferences or anything.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Lewski.
Couple questions. To follow up on that last comment, so 3 small conference rooms for the guest only. So they wouldn't be renting this to outside companies or small business that would want a conference room for something at a hotel?
Chairman, Commissioner Lewski, the PAD does specifically identify that it is for guests only.
Okay. And then I get the overall feeling that 3.3 acres for all they're trying to put in there is one of the reasons we're shrinking down most of the setbacks and parking. The traffic, I have a concern, but we're not going to alleviate that because it's built for P83 and you're going to have traffic in and out of there. But the parking kind of concerns me. The 0.8, there's no conference center, so that there's no parking for that. I mean, if we were to have full up, and people came over to meet somebody, are we really going to have enough parking for that? We tend to do that sometimes in Peoria where we have, 4, 5, 6 restaurants crammed into a corner, and there's no parking. So there's a concern I had here.
Chairman, Commissioner Atlusky, the parking study did take into account the extent of the rooms and the anticipation of the use of those rooms, in addition to parking accommodating for the restaurant use and the bar use if those move forward. So in addition to those 0.8 spaces per room, there would be additional spaces to accommodate the restaurant and bar. So it would accommodate as there's fluctuations in the uses.
Yeah, because I know we said one spot for every 50 square feet indoor and one spot for every 100 feet outdoor dining, but we don't have that in the plan here, or what that would be. All right, and I guess the only other question I have is we want to ask for 65 feet. Is that 65 with the mechanicals then, or is that 65 and the mechanicals on top?
Chairman, Commissioner Atlusky, that 65 feet now would incorporate the entire building as well as any mechanical equipment that would be stored on the roof. Any mechanical equipment that would be located on the roof would have to be screened, and that screening would have to be architecturally integrated with the building.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Chairman. I had shared that concern about the conference meeting room space, so I'm glad to hear that that will be for folks staying at the hotel only. That alleviated that concern. I do have a concern about, well, let me ask you a question first. On those apartments immediately to the west of this proposed project, did you say that those are 3 stories tall?
Chairman, Commissioner Nelson, that's correct. They are 3 stories tall.
So now we're looking at a 4-story development. We've got homes to the south. Admittedly, they're 550 feet separation, which is nice. But I'm always concerned about line of sight, and you've heard me bring that up before. You've got established residents here, and now you're going to have a 4-story building that could theoretically be able to see into backyards. Is that the case here, or do you believe that won't be the case because of the distance or because there's a landscape buffer? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Chairman, Commissioner Nelson, in this particular case, we don't have a line of sight study, so I would have to defer to the applicant as to where that line of sight would occur and what you would have there. As you referenced, there is approximately 550 feet, I think it's actually a little bit more, from the hotel use to the nearest residential property, in which you have the AC/DC canal. So accommodating that space provides for certainly a diminished view to any neighboring properties to the south. At the neighborhood meeting, one of the attendees, actually there was only one couple that attended, they identified that they had a question as to why the structure was not taller. Within the sports complex urban design plan, the plan actually calls for a much higher building at this location. I believe the allowance within that study is for 10 stories. So really looking for a high impact urban form. In this case, the developer had no desire to go to that elevation. The 4 stories accommodated what they were looking for.
So we don't require a line of sight study through our planning process on these things?
We do
It's an
not,
optional thing for the
due to
developer?
the sheer distance between the residential and the proposed use. In this case, it was not requested, but the applicant may have more information with respect to where that line of sight would actually fall.
But so I'm clear, from a city staff perspective, you don't have any concerns about being able to see into backyards? You believe that that 550 plus distance will not present a problem?
Chairman, Commissioner
Or
Nelson,
alleviate that concern?
that distance is such a significant separation that staff didn't feel it was a concern when viewing from, say, the top story of the hotel down to the residential to the south.
All right, thank you, Cody.
Chair Hutchison, Commissioner Nelson, if I could also add too, just reflecting on what the current entitlement is for. The current entitlement allows 60 feet plus mechanical equipment. So effectively with this project, we're not effectively increasing that height. So it's essentially the same height as what the current entitlement was. So just recognizing that part of it.
Yeah, I think I understood that, but thank you for that.
Right. Commissioner Condi, did you press to speak again?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not really comfortable with this for a number of reasons. One, my experience has been that oftentimes there are two people that meet at a hotel or a motel. So one car per room, in one space per room, I'm really skeptical, especially when it goes to 0.8. Two, I think that 7 feet, that's not very much to put in, that's this distance to put in plantings, and that makes me uncomfortable. And I'm uncomfortable also, and this I speak from personal experience, we don't have many meeting rooms here. And yes, you can say, well, they're for guests only, but a guest, I rent meeting rooms to teach, and I become a guest because I rent the room. And so I'm not comfortable. I'd like to see more of how this is real. This is not fully flushed out to me. The guest rooms, the lobby, et cetera, and the parking. And I really feel that the 7 feet from that to the street is very narrow. That's my, Did I have my mic on? I hope I did, anyway.
Chairman, Commissioner Condi, first to address the landscaping width that you had referenced, it was actually also a desire of staff to have that minimized as much as possible so that we can try and continue and create that urban form within the P83 district. So that was an intent to accomplish some of the goals identified within the urban design plan. As far as the parking allowances, the parking study did provide very detailed information with respect to the use of the hotel and the need for parking spaces per room. For the meeting space, I would have to defer to the applicant as far as any operational characteristics as to the room reservations for guests only, but that is one of the criteria identified within the PAD.
Okay, looks like we have a couple more in. I just wanted to get in a quick comment too. I'm very, very familiar with the area, and I see some of the neighbors that came out. I know they're very active in the community, and they were actually wondering why it wasn't. I guess this means that they were wondering why it wasn't taller. I couldn't tell. The wording is weird in here, but I'm real familiar with the area. What a great fit this is going to be for the P83 district. I think this is going to be just absolutely, it's exactly what we need in the area for our sporting events, for any future concert events or things like that. That vacant piece of land just seemed like such a waste for the district, and I'm really, really happy to see. I wish that the drawing was included in our packet, because that really made a statement. That is really going to be a corner piece, I think, to a lot of what we want to do for P83. So I'm really happy about this. We have Commissioner Lewski.
If you can go back to that site plan real quick. I just have one quick question. So going out to the north onto Paradise, it looks as though there's a cement boulevard that stops the left turn traffic from moving over too soon. Is that what I'm seeing there?
Chairman, Commissioner Atluski, one of the requirements for the Paradise Lane improvements would be restriping. So it's, I believe the portion that you're referencing that kind of looks like an island in the center of Paradise Lane there, that's actually simply striping. Okay. That would be a part of the requirements for the applicant in order to accommodate sufficient spacing for the left into the site, as well as exiting the site before you get onto the bridge that's immediately to the west of this.
Okay, great. I mean, we're going to have, no matter what we put there, I'm going to have concerns about traffic, because 75th Avenue is busy. And Paradise can be very busy during certain times of the year. But I think with the 2 exits, we've done a good job there. I'd echo what you said about, them bringing this to Peoria and specifically P83. It's exactly what we need. I'd love to have seen it in the parking lot by the sports complex with the full development, but we'll take it where you guys are putting it, I guess. So I just had that final question. Thanks.
Commissioner Alsop.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I agree with Chairman Hutchinson. I think this is great use for the area, and I generally like to see empty land get filled in, and I think it fits in well. And in regards to the parking, my observation is generally there's too much parking, and when I drive into Target parking lots, there's half a lot empty, and that's because parking requirements set by cities are generally overly generous for parking. And so I don't have any concern about the parking issue. I think it's beautiful, and I don't want to get caught up in what the operations are inside of the hotel. I think the mission of this commission is to regulate the zoning, and I think the zoning is great.
Commissioner Albright, did you have a comment? Okay, I thought I saw your name.
I was. I do have a little bit of a concern about the space, the utilization of the space. Parking is potentially adequate for most circumstances, but is there the opportunity at a future date to add parking spaces? This is a pretty tight plan, and if at some point in the future, use changes or there is a restaurant added, there doesn't seem to be a place for additional parking spaces to what's shown here.
Chairman, Commissioner Albright, I would defer to the applicant as far as what potential there is for accommodating additional space. But as you referenced, the site is very compact, so additional modifications may be difficult in the future to accommodate, say, additional parking.
Okay, I see no
I guess
other...
if I could just continue with that thought. I mean, this applicant may have plans for this space, but if this building in the future, 10 years from now, there isn't a lot of space, so you're going to add any more parking if this goes to be another use, or even if we misjudge this now and say that 0.8 parking spaces is enough, there's no room for improvement on this site.
Commissioner Albright, if I can just jump in real quick. If there are modifications to the building, a future user wants to add a restaurant or a conference space or something, they'd have to go through the permitting process, at which point we would evaluate the space and the parking ratios and see if the future use would exceed the parking demand today, and we would ask to work with the applicant at that time to make sure that the site works. If it doesn't work, then the use wouldn't be able to go in.
Okay, seeing no other requests to speak, I am going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to call the applicant. Would you like to say a few words? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jerry Gagnapane. I'm with Lamb Architects. I'm the project architect for this project, and my address is 7114 East Stetson Drive, Scottsdale, Arizona, Suite 350. I'd just like to say thank you for considering this project, the site, and the zoning requests that we've made. We've worked with staff for the last several months to accommodate the wishes for their objectives, to meet the objectives for the P83 district. We're glad it's in the P83 district. We feel it's a perfect fit because it's something that's sorely lacking in the sports complex and the entertainment district is visitors serving accommodations. We know that this project will contribute to that, as well as ongoing contributions to the transient occupancy tax, which would be to much great benefit to that the entertainment district. So far, I think we've heard a few comments regarding parking. The trend that we have, and I travel a lot for my business, and the trend that we see anymore in the hospitality business is that there's ride sharing is happening more and more. Rarely do we see multiple cars per single guest room. We usually see 4 guest rooms from 1 car. We have cabs, ride sharing, public transportation, but not so much public transportation. But we see people that don't want to drive in urban settings outside of their home city. So we're seeing more, like I said, carpooling and ride sharing. Uber, Lyft, taxis is cheaper than renting a car. So we see that the demand for parking spaces is going down. Now, the .8 is for per guest room, but keep in mind, we've also accommodated outside of that, the parking required for the use of the, the internal restaurant/bar area. We don't want to encourage the use of the conference rooms to outdoor meetings. They'll be prohibited. So if there's a tendency for someone to want to use that, register and reserve a room and bring in 30 or 40 people from the outside, that will be discouraged and probably will be ended and will not happen a second time. So it's an amenity. It is not a public use facility. So just want to clarify that.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for the applicant? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you for that added clarification about the parking. Obviously, you got from our position, we want to make sure that we're not impeding on the parking spaces across the street. We have some businesses that have been here a long time, and some of us can foresee a scenario where guests that can't find parking on your site are going across street parking, taking up their businesses' parking, walk across the street. It sounds like you feel pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue.
Pretty much, and we also have, we also could look at a parking strategy down the road if we feel it becomes an issue where we can actually do van pooling with employees. We can also, for all the employees that work on the site, we can actually, rent off-site parking spaces, have them brought over in van pools or by shuttle. We don't have, if that becomes an issue, or if we have a strong demand with, every guest room is taken and there is no parking available, which I doubt that will ever happen. But if we do have that condition, we can make arrangements for basically an alternative parking plan.
Think positive. You're going to be at capacity from day one. That's
Well, I
what
hope
we want to
so.
hear.
But I see a family showing up with a carload of kids and taking 2 rooms. So,
One follow-up question here on the pool area that's on the, I believe, on the second floor
That's
above
correct.
the lobby. Is that an open air pool area? I assume
yes,
that's
it
not
is.
enclosed.
No, it's not enclosed.
Okay.
We do have a fitness center that's a shared fitness center on that same level. It looks out at the pool. We have cabanas on the south side to protect from the sun, and then shade structures that you can see from the street that adds some color and just a little jazz to the front of that building. So,
Can you speak to a little bit about the potential noise issue in my mind? Whereas if you've got loud music playing, it's a party atmosphere.
Pool's closed
Again,
at
we
10
have we have homes bordering on the south there. So
well, the pool closes at 10 o'clock, and there wouldn't
10
be
o'clock
any
p.m. every night.
Yes.
Okay. So there'll be efforts. Am I hearing there'll be efforts to control the noise late at night?
I mean, as far
As music,
well, there wouldn't be nobody be taking
bands.
their I don't think they'd be taking their stereos up on our roof, because I think our guests would probably complain first. But
Okay.
there's no piped music, and other than early day or early during the daylight hours, if you will. But after 10 o'clock, the pool area completely shuts down, and it is monitored by closer
and
television.
that includes weekends.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
it's not going to be a W hotel.
Okay. Any other commissioners wish to speak? The applicant? Okay. I have no other speaker request forms. If there's no other commentary, thank you for your presentation. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for any further comments from the commission. I do have one question, and that was in the stipulations in the recommendation, the 69 kV and below overhead utilities. Is that the lines that are like along Skunk Creek, or is that where are they located?
Chairman, Commissioners, in this particular case, there are no 69 kV lines immediately adjacent to the site. Our engineering department likes to identify that requirement just in case there are overhead power lines in order to accommodate burial of those if they're under the 69 kV.
Okay. Okay, and then one other thing, I like to say this when I see good projects like this come to Peoria, and I see the buildings of this size, I just like to remind developers and your general contractors as well to encourage you to seek out ways to utilize Peoria citizens in the construction of these buildings. It largely remains unseen, the workers who come down and build these buildings and work for the generals and the subcontractors. We do have needs in our own local community, and we do have methods to connect local workers to local projects. So if you could express my concerns and my my enthusiasm for hiring within our city to build these buildings and to, eventually man them with your staff. That would be really great to see. Okay, seeing no other comments, I will look for a motion on case 3R, the Z06-15A.1 Marriott Town Place.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the case Z06-15A.1 to the City Council, subject to the conditions of staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this case. Would you please vote? Okay, passes unanimously. Thanks. Okay, item 4R. We're on to sign code. We're on to 4R TA 16-0001, sign code modernization project text amendment. A request to consider a city-initiated amendment to sections 21-827 through 21-855 of the city code, recently renumbered from Article 14-34 signs of the zoning ordinance. Staff, do you have a riveting report?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. Hopefully the long report was done last time around, and just a quick presentation and a brief update since then. So this is a city-initiated text amendment known as the Sign Code Modernization Project. What is the sign code? Just going to do a quick recap of that. Previously, as we noted, it's Article 1434 in the zoning ordinance, but it's now Section 21, 827 through 837 of the zoning ordinance. What does that mean? It regulates all the signs with the city, and as you can tell, we had the graphic on the screen up above, and just looking at it from a commercial standpoint, that business, there could be a lot of sign types on there. So we're very excited that we are pursuing this evening. Now, with that said, we do have some updates since the study session, and those are covered in the packet that I provided up on the dais this evening. And there's two items in there. The first one, we have received a letter from Weimar, which I'll cover briefly later on in the presentation. But wait, this is an iterative process, so we have additional refinements I'd like to walk through, but I promise no voting this evening, except for at the end when I ask for a recommendation. So just to recap, why are we doing this? In 2015 Supreme Court decision, Reed versus Town of Gilbert, what came out of that is really key here. Content neutrality is of the utmost importance. You can't read the code, you can't read the sign to enforce the code. That is really it. At the same time, they did allow us ample options to continue to regulate signage through some items like safety, aesthetics, size, building materials, and so on. Just as a refresher, what we're trying to do here, the sign code hasn't been comprehensively updated since 1989. As you can see, those same 2 pages, not getting any better. It's very text heavy, and we're using some outdated terminology, and it's definitely not content neutral. New code facts, and I have updated based on the number on the word count, but as you know, first and foremost, we're looking for compliance with READ. So we believe the sign code being proposed is content neutral. We have significantly reduced the words. The pages are basically cut in half, and I always appreciate that. We have less sign types, and we are actually making it faster because there are less permits required for people. And we have 2 additional sign types that we feel will actually enhance in various key aspects of the city, and those included the projection signs and one other. Quick recap on the stakeholder outreach. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings, 2 with actual stakeholder groups. We've had 2 additional meetings with local groups and think tanks. We've even met one-on-one with industry reps, and that's continued throughout the process. I did update the count last on the 18th, now makes it 4 planning and zoning study sessions. Thank you for your participation. We also had 3 city council study sessions. For interaction, email, the city website, we've had the meetings, newspaper, walk-ins at the counter. And we have received the letter of support from the National Association of Home Builders of Central Arizona. I would also like to direct your attention into the packet this evening from the letter of WEMAR, recognizing our efforts to continue to work with the industry to make refinements to present the best code that we think is possible. So just touching on what we discussed at the January 18th study session. We talked about getting rid of all of the confusing cross-references, and now it simply says section or sign code instead of article or code or sign code or section. We're down to 2, and there's a quick reference in there. We clarified the window signage. The commission opted not to increase, not to increase the window signage from 25 to 50%, and to maintain that on the first floor. However, you did ask for clarification on what sign area meant, so we made that change within the code. Residential roadway signs, this is where the voting was fast and furious, but what we're going with now is 1 sign per turning movement within the 1 mile radius. The duration has been changed from 3 hours before the event up to 3 hours after the event, and we have clarified the placement limitation of those signs. Now, property offered for sale, lease, or rent, you'll notice something in red, and I'm going to come back to that in a little bit later. What we suggested at the 18th was that additional signage would be allowed for residential property owners abutting arterial and collectors. That would be one side, kind of the back of the property, smaller in nature, that would be visible from the right-of-way. Additionally, we wanted to address the issue of a multi-story building or an upper unit floor. And so you wouldn't have the ability to put a freestanding sign in the front yard, so to speak. And so we allowed the alternate option for it to go into the window. Now, the reason why it's red is because, well, we did a good job with that. We missed a few items on that one. So we're coming back and clarifying that, and I'll show you that shortly. Duration, we simplified. Also within your packet, there is a cheat sheet. There are 3 pages. We are down to 3 pages, and the proposed modifications are shown in red. There are 3 sections. It's in prohibited signs, temporary sign types, and going back to the one that we talked about, which would be the little temporary signs in the residential right-of-way. So let me start with this first. We also received additional clarification items from industry stakeholders. We believe those are very reasonable, so we want to incorporate those this evening. The first one is actually from our engineering department, and it's prohibited signs. What they've asked is that freestanding signs would be prohibited within the public utility easements unless otherwise approved by the city engineer. And that would, because you have footers and electrical associated with those freestanding monument signs, they would like to keep those out of the dry utilities, the cable, the phone, and everything else where possible. There may be certain instances where that may not happen, and so they've allowed on a case-by-case basis for the city engineer to take a look at that. The next one regarding vehicle signage. We had a propositional phrase in there. Wasn't so clear to everybody. So WEMAR has asked us to remove that, and we are in agreement with that change. And so, as you can see within the packet and the screen, it basically says you need to park in a lawful manner, period. And so that's pretty clear. Now, a couple of things. In the back of the memo that I provided is a full draft of all the changes incorporated from the 18th and the ones that we're talking about tonight. But because of the 2 changes up above, the prohibited sign and the vehicle sign, we had a shift in content. So pages 6 through 10, some things have slightly shifted in the process, which is kind of normal. So just wanted you to be aware of that one. But you do have a full draft within your packet this evening. One other item that Weimar has asked us to modify is regards to the temporary sign types. There are 2 changes in here. First is 8.7, which is a clarification that the contact information we're looking for is the person responsible for the sign. It may not necessarily be the person installing the sign. It would be the person with the back with the contact information. In speaking with code enforcement, they are definitely in agreement. They want to, if you are responsible for the sign, that's the person where they're going to want to call and say, hey, we've got a problem. So they're in support of the change and also agreed with the removal of 8.8 as well, which was pretty legalese, and it was a little confusing on what we were trying to accomplish on that one. So the last one, like I said, we were close in what we were trying to accomplish, but we did not address all of the situations possible for property offered for sale, lease, or rent, and it's basically for parcels under 1 acre in size. So we attempted to address the situations where we had the multi-story buildings and the upper floor units. However, what we did miss was you may not be able to have a freestanding sign in the situation of a condo, whether you're a ground floor unit or if you have an HOA association and the land outside your property is in HOA control. So your CC&Rs may restrict you to not be able to have a freestanding sign in that situation. So what we are suggesting is this, that signs may be placed in the window when freestanding signs are not possible or they're prohibited because of those type of situations. And we think it streamlines the language and it's pretty clear at that point. So with that, key findings. We believe the draft code represents a sign code that complies with the Supreme Court decision. It is definitely more user-friendly for all users, and we believe the draft code promotes enhancements to the built environment, adding the high aesthetic value that we're looking for, and it allows us to effectively convey a variety of messages to the public. So with that, staff is recommending approval of case TA 16-0001 to the Peoria City Council. And with that, I will take questions.
Wonderful, Lori, thank you. We have a question from Commissioner Atlusky.
Not as much a question as a congratulations. Every city is struggling with this. Every city has tried to come to grips with the new reality of signs, and we've been through 4 meetings. You guys have been through months and months and months, and I know Melissa started this and then had to make her move, and you guys jumped in. So reading through it, I just want to congratulate all of you for your hard work and willingness to listen to the industry and listen to outside sources and making this as best we can. And I guarantee people looking to get signs are going to be glad you're half the pages you were.
Commissioner Condi, you good?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm good.
Seeing no other requests to speak, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And we do have one request to speak from the public, and that is Liz. Your name's Recchia. How did I do?
That was good.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
I cheated.
Sorry.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Liz Recchi, I'm Government Affairs Director for Weimar, the West Maricopa Association of Realtors. We're located at 9001 West Union Hills up on in Peoria. Over the course of the last several months, Weimar has worked with the city staff of Peoria on the proposed draft sign ordinance. First with Melissa Sigmund, and later with Lori Deaver and Chris Hawkes. All of them have been a delight to work with, and they all have been informative, and they've all been inquiring. As late as yesterday afternoon, we were in communications with Ms. Deaver and Mr. Hawkes regarding language suggestions. When applicable, changes were made in a matter of sometimes a few hours. This type of responsiveness is infrequent in business, and it's infrequent in government as well, and we so appreciate that. Overall, Weimar is pleased with the updated proposed sign ordinance. We understand staff intends to reassess this ordinance in about a year's time, and we're pleasantly surprised with that initiative. We will gather input from our members over the course of the next year so that we may be able to provide relevant input at the appropriate time. Ms. Deaver has also shared with us a sample of a cheat sheet she'll be working on so that members of the public will have access to quick reference materials regarding the most common sign ordinance types. And I, for one, am very grateful to Ms. Deaver for providing these cheat sheets. They're going to be a great aid to everyone who needs to access them. Once she's finalized them, Weimar will post them along with a link to the City of Peoria website. We'll also announce them in our Weimar communications to our members. The updated sign ordinance will be far-reaching. If the city becomes aware of repeated issues with realtors who are Weimar members, please do not hesitate to contact me so that we can increase our education efforts so that those reoccurrences will be reduced or hopefully eliminated. Staff has indicated they will be providing us with information regarding appeals process should a sign owner have their sign taken by code enforcement, and we look forward to reviewing that information as well. Weimar appreciates the staff's efforts, time, and energy in drafting this proposed sign ordinance, as well as your efforts and time, so that various concerns are addressed. We look forward to the many positive changes in the updated sign ordinance.
Well, thank you. Any commissioners wish to speak on the subject? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And any further statements from commissioners? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to echo what Commissioner Otluski said. I know there's been many months of work that went into this. I appreciate so much the inclusive process. I think Congress could take a lesson from Peoria in getting feedback from all stakeholders and not rushing things. And I think that's a real demonstration of the competence we have at city staff and of the processes that we follow and the philosophies we follow. So just a bit of appreciation there. So with that, I want to move that we forward a favorable recommendation to City Council for case number TA16-0001.
Very good. We have a motion on the case. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on TA 16-0001. Seeing no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote. And it passes unanimously. I can't wait till 2019 and revisit this. It's going to be great. Okay. So we are on to call to the public on non-agenda items. Seeing no other members of the public here to speak, we will move on to staff reports.
Just a couple items, just a reminder that we'll see you here in 2 weeks on February 15th, and then again 2 weeks after that on March 1st for a regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. That's all.
Excellent. Are there any reports from the Planning and Zoning Commission? Commissioner Otluski.
Yeah, just I guess a quick comment. Commissioner Nelson and I attended an Old Town, I'm not even sure what we called it anymore, but a meeting regarding Old Town Peoria. Very informational. It's the first one I've been to of that. I think it was very well run, and it was, I wouldn't say surprised, but I was excited by the agreement in the mix use of the Old Town. Because sometimes you go into a thing, oh, you got to save every piece of history and everything. But it seemed like the public was willing to take that history and share it with today's world. And it was a real kind of mixed, I'm going to say mixed use, because that's probably the wrong term, but I think you know what I mean. It was a good meeting, though, and it was very informational. And I would love to see that come true, and all the businesses and restaurants and things that we could bring here would be amazing.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson.
Well, you stole my thunder there. Thanks a lot. So, no, I think that was well said. It was just, I thought it was a great meeting. I appreciated being invited. I think the concepts that were presented were interesting, exciting. I think everybody who was in the room was kind of excited about what the possibilities are, including myself, and there was a lot of energy. I think we got some great ideas from people who live and have businesses in those areas. And then lastly, I love the democratic process that we use with electronic voting to be able to give live feedback to you. I love to see us do more of that. I think that was really a lot of fun, and it was engaging, and people really felt a sense of buy-in to the work that was taking place. So again, thanks for inviting us to be a part of that, and certainly I look forward to more opportunities to be included. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for going. I couldn't make that. Commissioner Condi.
I was at that meeting also. I was also very impressed. And I was at a meeting like that 25 years ago where it wasn't like that at all, where there was a lot of, oh, we want to keep everything, can't change this, it's always been this way. And it was really refreshing to have really bright ideas come from the people who live there and the excitement they felt about being able to change things and have it revitalized. It was an entirely different feeling than it was, as I said, 25 years ago. And they did a fabulous job presenting it and getting feedback, making it really a two-way conversation. I was very impressed. I hope we have more of those for other areas. It was definitely a good thing.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know I saw similar participation with the general plan meetings and the series of meetings from the community, and they were really great to be at, and it's good to see so many people in Peoria get involved in the process. I just hope that we can see better connectivity into the future with public transit, because I left the office at 10 to 5 today and still got here over an hour and a half later. All right. That being said, I see no other requests to speak. The only other item on the agenda today is adjournment. So we are adjourned till next time. Thank you.